Can you see my dinosaurs? Dinosaur, dinosaur. Whoa! Right, hello humans. My name is Dael Kingsmill, and look, my attempts to film of late have been, shall we say, thwarted. So much noise. There's a giant lizard that just fell off a wall in the background. And we're done with that. We're done with that energy. No matter how this video ends up, we're using it. This is the one. A couple people of late have been interested. I've shown my way that I lay out monster stat blocks or enemy stat blocks and how it differs from the typical monster manual stat block. I gesture over here because there's my bookshelf and my monster manual. I do it a little differently. I've shown you a couple times in videos now, but a couple people have been asking me how I actually what is my process of statting up a monster. So I thought that I would show you that. So I wanted to pick a kind of a creature that we're not already we have a stat block in mind. I wanted to give you kind of just like, here's how I would stat up a concept rather than something that already has a stat block, because then you're gonna have the actual stat block informing a lot of what you do. I wanted to pick something that has like a signature attack we can kind of start building from, so I ended up going with a Wookiee. And the way that I organize these stat blocks, I start with a name up here. It gets split up into defense and offense down here, and this section up the top right under the title is stuff that isn't offensive or defensive. Typically those will include things like initiative or speed, things that you just kind of need to know off the bat. So I start with initiative, speed, and proficiency bonus, right? Those are things that we need. Is the whiteboard working? I hope the whiteboard's working. Last time I did this I had just like a notebook and was writing in pen and it wasn't juicy enough to see on camera. Juicy? Juicy. I'm juicy right now. It's like a sauna in here. I followed this up with just a little skills section. I'll end up erasing this, but typically I don't include very many skills if you're looking to just beat this thing up, if it's just like a monster for a combat or an enemy that you will mostly only see in combat. I don't tend to write many skills. Typically the skills that will be included will be stealth and perception, because those are the things most likely to come up in a combat scenario. But maybe sometimes something else will be, particularly relevant to the critter involved. Then we get our defensive section. Chances are, if you've got, one baddie versus a party, the party's probably gonna end up going first. So I like to put defense above offense. Defense includes armor class, it includes hit points, it includes saves, any resistances that might come up, and then possible room for any special defensive thing. This is where you'll put things like uncanny dodge or, I don't know, that thing that orcs have that bring them back to 1 hit point. Those kind of defensive abilities go there. Then we get an offensive section. I tend to write down probably 3 attacks. I go with kind of a minor attack, a major attack, and a combo attack. Sometimes it won't actually be a minor attack and a major attack. Sometimes it'll be like, I'll replace the major attack with, if this is a typically melee baton, then I will put the melee attack that they have in their major section, and I'll put a ranged attack in their minor section if I do want to give them ranged capability. And then a section for any special offensive stuff as well. With a Wookiee, I'm just gonna erase these bits for a second. Now with a Wookiee, the place I'm probably gonna start is the signature attack, by which I of course mean Wookiees are known to be able to rip people's arms off. Now we're gonna make this the combo attack because it is something that rips a character's arms off. And you probably wanna, not do that willy-nilly, not make it the harshest thing in the world. I will say, however, I'm not gonna make it too easy on a player if they're gonna be up against a Wookiee. Here's what it is. If you don't want your characters to have their arms ripped off, if you don't think that your players are going to have a fun time if their character gets their arms ripped off, don't have your player party go up against a Wookiee, known for tearing people's arms off. You know what I mean? Commit to the concept, is what I'm saying. So we know that the ranged attack is going to be crossbow. We know that the major attack is probably going to be unarmed. You just smash him, boof, boof. And we know that this is going to be tear off arms. Great. Now, let's see. A crossbow is going to be, let's say that the Wookiee's got a proficiency. I sort of made some notes on numbers just to go by. I think that when you're statting stuff up, it can be helpful. A lot of people find it helpful. You don't have to do this. A lot of people find it helpful to work out sort of, oh, hello. Oh, geez. 10 minutes already. Oh, no. The last time I did this, I missed this thing stopping recording 1,000 times. So now I'm setting alarms and time goes fast. I've missed a call from Abermain Public School. I wonder what that's about. Don't know where Abermain is. A lot of people, though, do find it is useful to kind of work out some averages in terms of damage and hit points and armor class for their party so they can kind of balance an encounter if they want to. It will always, always, always come down to the action economy, but having said that, it can still be useful. So, in this case, we're looking at, I sort of wrote down the averages for a player party of level 5, with the typical sort of rule book party makeup of a wizard, a rogue, a cleric, and whatever the other one is, a fighter. For that party, we're looking at a proficiency bonus of +3. So for that party level, we're looking at a proficiency bonus of about a +3, which means that we're going to have probably about a +6 to each of their sort of main attack. That if they're putting like their best stat towards their attack. If the rogue is putting dex into a dex attack, then you're gonna end up with a +6, right? So let's give the Wookiee +6 as well. Not to the crossbow, that's a ranged attack, and the +3 will be in strength. Let's say the crossbow has a +4. What's a crossbow's damage? Where's my book? It's too far. I'm going to assume it's a 1d6. The unarmed, this Wookiee deals a 1d4, like a monk do. Now, for tear-off arms, we do want to mitigate things a little, so it's not just, haha, your arms have been torn off immediately. First things first, have someone like Han Solo mention to the party that Wookiees are famous for tearing people's arms off. Another way to do it is to have an NPC around to get their arms torn off, just to let the party sort of see how it happens before it happens to them. Or you can mitigate it by not having it be an immediate save or suck, have it be a different thing. Often in this case, I would have it say something like, multi-attack, make 2 unarmed attacks. If both attacks succeed, then the creature, the target is grappled. And then on the Wookiee's next turn, I don't have enough room to write all this, so you just have to imagine it. On the Wookiee's next turn, they can tear off the creature's arms in place of their attack. So that's where I start for a Wookiee. Now, I do think it's important to note for my particular process, come on Blue, that I don't always start in the same place. So in this case, I started with the attacks because I had a clear idea of what I wanted the attacks for the Wookiee to be, right? But it's not like a do this, then this, then this process. It's a what do I know about this creature process. So if I was doing something different, if I was doing something like a Teenage Mutant Ninja Turtle, let's say it's Raphael, because he's my favorite. He's cool but rude. Got all the same things to start with. Speed, you've got your proficiency. Whoops, did that a little close. Did it exactly the same place. For the Ninja Turtle, I would probably start somewhere like Armor Class, because a Ninja Turtle is a turtle. He got a big old shell and he's got real high dex because he's a ninja. So I know that I want the AC on a Ninja Turtle to be way high. So if an average level 5 party has a +6 to hit, that means that, I did some maths earlier, I gotta dip into this. Okay, a level 5 party on average has a 60% chance to hit an AC of 15. When it comes to choosing an armor class, it does get interesting. So in the video game XCOM, which I love. Particularly, I think it was when they were remaking it into XCOM Enemy Unknown. The developers were playtesting with a bunch of different people, and they noticed this trend where the computer, it's a sort of turn-based strategy game and you have to shoot aliens. The computer sort of factors in a bunch of different information, and then it will calculate the chance that your soldier has to hit, and it'll say, 80% chance to hit. But the human brain looks at that and goes, 80% chance to hit, and reads that as a higher chance than it is. So when you land in the 20% where you miss, it feels less fair. We don't quite experience probability the way it's actually happening. And so when they were making this game, they ended up tweaking all of the numbers so that they presented a lower probability than they actually were, and that way it suddenly felt fair. So instead of saying 80%, it would say you have a 70% chance or a 68% chance of hitting this monster that you actually have an 80% chance of hitting. And so when you missed in the 20%, it felt more realistic. And that's the same kind of psychology that we're playing with in D&D. Basically what I'm getting at is if you want it to feel like your players are hitting half the time, then they should be hitting more like 60% of the time. Ugh. So then if we know that a 15 AC for a level 5 party is a 60% chance to hit, assuming they have a +6 average to their attacks, I want a Wookiee to feel like it's getting hit more than half of the time, so I'm gonna lower its AC a little bit. I can buff hit points and resistances and things to kind of even it out. So for the armor class, I'm gonna say, I feel like making it 70% to hit feels right, but that would bring the AC to a 13, which looks wrong. And I do trust my gut a little bit here, so I'm gonna go with a 14 instead. So they're gonna be hitting this Wookiee more than half the time, quite a bit more than half the time. But this Ninja Turtle, this Raphael over here, Ninja Turtle's got a shell and they're a ninja. So you want them to be hit less than half the time. So if 60% feels like half the time, we want them to be hitting probably 50% of the time for it to feel like they're hitting slightly less than half the time. You know what I mean? So that's an AC 17. You can always, and I often, once I've sort of statted up a baton, I end up, rolling the dice a couple times, seeing how often I would hit the creature in question just to see if it feels right. We'll get back to that later. Saves. I do not write down the save bonus for every single ability. Unless they are notably, like if they have a negative to a particular save, I tend to only write down the saves that they're best at. If it doesn't really have anything notable going on in terms of like dex saves, for example, it's not really worth writing down. Just don't worry about it and assume if it comes up that there's a +0. It's easy as that. But I do write down the saves that they would be proficient in, which in this case would be Strength +6. And I would say probably Constitution. Let's go with a +6 as well. And maybe even a cheeky Wisdom save in here, but we make that one lower. Let's say it's a +3, maybe a +4. Because this Wookiee's gonna get hit a bunch of the time, I'm not feeling too bad about buffing its other defensive capabilities. Hit points, what average damage can a level 5 party do? Damage per round, average at 35. The assumption here being that the characters are doing average damage and are hitting, what, half the time. This is a very loose number, it's not actually super accurate. Don't at me, maths peeps. So they can do about 35 damage per round, then I want it to survive. Let's say it's with a couple of other Wookiees, probably wouldn't make it a solo battle by any means. So we want each one to survive probably 3 or 4 rounds. So I'm gonna round this up to about 110 hit points. And just because of that low AC, again, I'm gonna give it a resistance. I'm gonna give it resistance to, let's say, slashing, because of all that fur. Does that work? Why did I make that L into a T? Slashing. Resistance, ... slashing. Cool, so now we've got our offensive section, we've got our defensive section. The speed is probably just gonna be a standard 30, isn't it? In it! Its initiative is not gonna be crazy. We've not been, I mean, they're not slow, but they're not exactly, The initiative, I'm gonna give it a +. Here is one thing, even if they don't have a bonus to their dexterity, I do tend to give monsters a boost to their initiative, or at least a couple of the monsters, just so that they're kind of more scattered throughout a battle. I'm just gonna give them like a +2. Now let's see, stealth. Not good. Wookiees, they loud. I'm gonna give, I might even give a -1? Do I dare? Why not? Why not? Perception, I don't care what you smell. Wookiees have a good sense of smell, so I'm gonna give proficiency, and I'm gonna say it's like a +5. They got a decent perception. I will also add in, I know I said that I don't tend to put many skills in, but intimidation I'm gonna give a +6 to intimidation, because Wookiees are scary. I hope you can see what I'm doing here. I hope it makes sense to you what I'm doing, and you can kind of replicate the process in some capacity. So with Raphael over here, we've started with the defensive section, and so we're starting in sort of a very, very different place. I'm gonna jump straight up, give Raph real good initiative and probably a bonus to speed. I'm gonna give 40 speed to Raphael, I would say. We've got that +3 proficiency as well. The initiative, I'm gonna give a +5 to initiative. This is a ninja turtle. Speaking of ninja turtle, +6 at least to stealth. I would actually probably give more than that. It's a ninja, you know, +8. But it's Raphael, not the most perceptive in the world, probably. Let's say a +3. Let's just say proficient, but not like his thing. Hit points we're gonna leave off for a second. What are his saves going to be for Raphael? Probably, he's a ninja, we're still going with that. Dex save, I'm gonna say +6. And we're going to say maybe a strength save again. This one's probably a little lower, but not too much lower. Let's say it's +5. Offensive, we're gonna chuck in his side down here. We're gonna make a kick attack, and we'll throw in, this is not a combo necessarily. I would make the combo for this just multi-attack. Multi-attack. Great. And then special, I would just say sneak attack, like a rogue. Boom. I didn't do an example of a special defense over here, so I'll chuck in a special defense for Raph as well. That can be, let's give him that orc ferocity or whatever it's called. Even though he is not an orc. Ferocity. I would say 2 kicks or 1 sai, 1 kick. You know, let's just say 2 of any. 2 in any combo. That's what I'll say. Because a sai or a 2 sai, 2 kicks, sai kick, that all makes sense. A kick counts for 1d4 again, because it's a ninja kicking you. That's basically a monk. Plus, what did I give him? I gave him what looks like a +2 to strength, which, be aware, I don't think actually matters. If you think it should do more, then it should probably do more. One thing I will say while I'm laying out the damage stuff is that if you want to make like an attack that hits real strong, so if I say, for example, the tearing off arms attack, if I want to say it does a bunch of damage and it's enough damage to make all your players go, oh no, right? I will say, what's the hit points? I think the hit points on average at level 5 are something like 35 again. So you don't want your huge attack to kill someone outright, or I personally don't, or very rarely do. So I would want it to do like 20 damage is probably the big oh no moment. So 3d12 averages out at about 20 versus how many d6s would you need? 3.5, 7, 10.5, 14, 17.5. Yeah, let's just go with that. Let's say 5d6 and make it an 18, right? The reason I'm laying this all out here is that A, player psychology again, if they hear more dice, that is scarier than fewer dice. Hearing you say that's 5d6 sounds scarier somehow than 3d12. Maybe D12 wasn't a great example. D12 is always scary as a die. But the other thing is that rolling more of a smaller size die, shoot. I don't know when that stopped recording, but we're going with it. Rolling more of a smaller size die trends towards the average. When you have the choice, if you want to make an impact but you don't want to accidentally kill your players, err on the side of more of a smaller die rather than fewer of a large die. The fewer the dice, the more the total will swing. Sai, I mean, I don't know it's basically, it's a dagger, right? He's adding his dex to it, so it's a +3. And then we'll kind of just write a note here as well. Sneak attack plus, what is it, 3d6 at this point? I genuinely don't know. It might just be 2. So anyway, that's, oh, I haven't done hit points. Who knows? This is a hero character, so they're gonna have more. But they're also attacking as one of a team of 4, so I don't know. I'm gonna say 200 because A, I'm not thinking about it, and 2, A and 2, I don't want Raphael to die. I don't know. I hope that was something that you could follow. I hope it was understandable. I hope I said some things that made sense and that made you think. Yeah, I don't know. I feel like the biggest thing to keep in mind while starting up a monster or a baddie for a fight is player psychology. I feel like people want combat to be fair, but we want it to be human fair, not numbers fair. That's it. I'm done. We're done here. Email this to your grandma. See you some other time. All the other things I say. Ah, why did I throw that pen? Why did I do it? Ugh. Hello, it's me. It's Dael. Ah! Oh, the viewfinder just made me dance.